Our foster care system is shattered. And this podcast is about how we as a community can come together to bring about change. Change in the system and changing the lives of children in foster care. Hi, my name is Rob Scheer. I'm the founder of a national charity called Comfort Cases. I'm an advocate for children in foster care. I'm a public speaker. I'm an author of A Forever Family. But most important, I'm a dad to 5 of the most amazing kids. Welcome to the Fostering Change podcast. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Fostering Change. You know, I am so excited for my next guest. You know, those of you who read my book, A Forever Family, there's a lot of acts of kindness that I talk about. And one of the largest one was a teacher. You know, I still actually remember that day that when I realized that I was homeless and I was sitting in Mrs. Bowley's English class. And Mrs. Bowley, as we were preparing for music, and she looked over at me and she gave me that wink that I always knew. It was that teacher that truly made a difference in my life. You know, I talked about my senior trip. All the other kids were going on this senior trip, and there was no way in hell that I was going to afford to go on it. I was homeless. I wasn't even able to figure enough ways to find food for the night. But all of a sudden, I was called down to the principal's office, and I thought to myself, finally, someone's going to talk about the homeless kid. But instead, Mr. Thompson said, your senior trip is paid for. I said, how? I couldn't afford to buy that train ticket or bus ticket up to New York City. And he said, someone did it for you. Well, 2.5 years ago, when I was on my book tour, I went back to my hometown. I had not been back to my hometown in many, many years. And it was just a memory that I didn't want to go to. Well, as I was sitting at a table signing the books, and I couldn't believe of all the people that were coming to actually have me sign my book, all of a sudden I heard a woman say to me, Robert, I always knew you would amount to something. And I looked up, and there was my 70-some-year-old music teacher, Mrs. Bowley, as tears were streaming down her face. You know, it was the act of kindness. My next guest is the same thing. A teacher and a music teacher, a musician, an author. But I was so excited when I received Kyle's book that I had to have him on my podcast. Kyle, I'm not going to butcher the last name, but I want us to do this together. So it's Kyle
Tolstyka.
Tolstyka. Okay, first of all, I got to know, give me a little bit of background on the last name.
My family migrated here at the turn of the century. My grandmother, Helen Hushik, got married to into the family Tolstyka, and supposedly were related to Tolstoy by like 3 cousins or something like that. So it's pretty Russian, Slavic.
Love it.
Eastern European.
Before we start getting into your book, have you done your DNA test through Ancestry?
No, I haven't. I'd like to. I fooled around on Ancestry.com a little bit and found some cool old documents and stuff, but I haven't done a DNA test, no.
Okay, you got to do it. It's going to be one of our segments. I did it. My husband bought me the kit, and I did it, and I can't wait for that podcast because you want to talk about a shocker. But anyway, listen, I want to get to your book. You know, I got your book, Where Do I Fit? You know, I love children's books, by the way. I always talk about the fact that, you know, for me, I don't remember when I owned my first book, and I was probably in my 20s. And much less for me to be, one, a kid from the system, or even two, being a gay man. There was never a book where I felt I fit in. So I want you to go back to the drawing board of why did you feel that this book was necessary?
Well, first, can I say thank you so much for letting me come and hang out with you on this podcast. I'm very grateful that we've been able to build up a friendship recently. And so the book, I I was reading to my son Santos one night, and it was a kid's book. It was a board book, and there was rhyming, and the rhyme scheme just was so awkward to me. And as a teacher, I don't like when things aren't idiomatically easy, right? Things should roll off the tongue. And I decided that kind of planted a seed that, maybe there's something here. And then one day I was teaching and I had this idea of a puzzle piece, and it just, I kind of snowballed. I'm not going to say I woke up and wrote down a song like the Beatles or anything like that, but the seed was planted that I did want to write something because language is an important tool, and I wanted to put something together that my kids could read and it would make sense. And then I remember I was teaching, and these ideas just started coming to me. And in between each class, I have about a little bit of a break in between each class. So I would write down a stanza, and then I'd teach another class, and then I'd write down another stanza. So I felt like I had an idea, and then I let it sit. And then by the time 30 minutes had passed, I had another idea, and I just wrote it down. And I think in a matter of a day, I had an outline, a general idea of, there's this puzzle piece and it doesn't fit in wherever it goes. And, because each puzzle piece has its own specific place. And obviously it was inspired by the fact that we adopted our two boys. So roundabout way of how I came up with the story, but that's kind of where it started. It was I just wanted to write a good kids book.
Well, I will tell you, it is a good kids book, and the thing that really, captured me when I first read your book, and by the way, I've read it several times, is that in the very beginning, it would not make you feel like you're a kid from the foster care system. That was the first thing. Some of the things that I will tell you that I got out of this book is, number one, yes, it is definitely a kid who's missing his puzzle pieces. And I started thinking about how that could affect more than just a child going into the system. Let's say, for example, I have friends of mine, sadly enough, who are recently divorcing, and they are having to move to different locations now, and the kids are having to now have two different types of places they live. And I thought about, your particular book where it says, I've lost my puzzle. I'm scared to be alone, to call my own. I just want someplace and someone to call my own. And even somebody who is going through a divorce, or maybe a parent who's a child who's lost a parent. In today's, there's so many kids who've lost their parents, whether it's through cancer or the war or COVID. There's so many things that they can relate to this.
Yeah.
I want to, I heard you tap on your two boys and how it was important that, as you're reading to them, was it important because your boys actually were adopted through the foster care system, am I right?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
they were. Yep.
As they were in your home through the system, did you happen to realize that there just weren't any books for them to relate to?
And if there were books, they just weren't very good. And there a lot of the I just didn't like anything that we were finding. To be honest with you, I don't think anything was particularly deep. And then some books had way too much detail, like conversations I'm not going to have with my 5-year-old at the time, 6-year-old. And it just, it was either they were too simple or they were just too much. And I kind of had to find a place in the middle. And I think I created that, that my 7-year-old can have an intelligent conversation with you about the book. He's done it with his class. He read it to his class and they asked him questions and he was able to answer those questions. And now those kids went home and told their parents about foster kids and that kids don't have a home. And I'm like, how, at the end of the day, how do you turn something from being a taboo subject to being, a mainstream thing that we talk about, the F word, foster care? there you go.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that, Kyle. I think that, I say this quite often in comfort cases is empathy is something that we must teach our children. And I believe the platform of empathy is starts with us talking about foster care, because I do believe that that is something that we should not be ashamed of. I do also believe that foster care can be delivered in a way for children from preschool all the way to our college educated kids to know that foster care is something that happens because of a choice that someone else has made. For so many reasons, we think that, oh, these kids are put into the system because they're bad kids, or these kids are put in the system. I was speaking just right prior to the pandemic to a young school. And I remember the principal asking for me to have a meeting with her prior to giving my talk. And she says, now listen, she says, I want to make sure that these kids are not, they're not scared once they leave the school today that they're going to be snatched from their parents. And I said, that's the sad part, is that's the myth. And because we're not going to address that myth, they will still have that in their mind. And so, I love the fact that you've written a book that kids can talk about it. Kids can see that, by the way, we're all different. I mean, I look at my 5 kids. I love the fact when people walk up to us and they'll say, "Oh, your family is so beautiful. Are they adopted?" And one of my little smart mouth kids will always say, "Nope, we're not adopted." And I'm like, "But you're 4 black kids and you're got 2 white dads." And they're like, "Dad, it's the dumb question they ask, though." And so this gives an opportunity. I love the colors of the book. I love the colors of the people that are in the book. I love how different it is. I love the simplicity of it. And what I want to know is, how can people get a hold of this book?
Well, I started this project, and I created a Kickstarter because, one, I'm a teacher, and I have kids. I'm not rich. So I started a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter funded, which allowed us to go, pay for everything, the illustrations and everything like that, and the printing and all of that stuff. And we delivered everything we've created. And then I realized at the end of the Kickstarter, I had to create something how am I going to sell the book after the fact? So I created a website with my illustrator, tofu-press.com, and you can order a copy of the book there.
I love that. I love that. Now, because I'm your friend and you and I know each other on the outside of the podcast, the tofu thing didn't have anything to do with the fact you're a vegan, huh?
It did. My illustrator, funny enough, he's a vegan. I reached out to him because we have a couple of his kids' books, and fabulous writer and illustrator, as you could see. And I just emailed him and I said, I've written the story. Here's the gist of it. Can you, like-minded people, right? Can would you be able to write this and put this down and come up with some ideas with me? And we back and forth came up with, some concepts, and it worked out kind of perfectly. And he turned out to be, this vegan. We have a lot of the same interests. We're both young dads. We're also into jujitsu, so we're like buddies there. It just kind of worked out in a really cool way. I've made a great friend, and I've learned a ton in the process.
Wow. I love that. Well, listen, Kyle, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to do something that we haven't done before when we get back. I actually want you to read the book to us. So
Right.
I hope you have your copy there, because I have my copy here. Listen, everybody, we are so excited to talk to my friend today, Kyle. Where Do I Fit is his book. The book really helps, even for those new foster parents who are, really getting ready to dive into this amazing journey of foster care when it comes to being a good foster parent. This book on your shelf is exactly what you need. And by the way, for all of our social workers who are listening, this is another great book that should be in your rainbow room or your safe room for a child to read as they first enter the system. Because, by the way, we do, and so many times, feel like a piece of puzzle that was forgotten to be shaped to fit into that picture. And this really helps you out. As we always say at Fostering Change, the most flattering thing you can do is leave a comment, share, share, share. If you have any questions, please just email us at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. And come on, everybody, let's get those subscriptions up on our YouTube channel. You can leave a review there. If there's a guest that you would think that should be on our show, please just drop us an email, put something in the review. And again, you can listen to our podcast on all of the platforms, and we will be right back. This episode of Fostering Change is sponsored by Comfort Cases, a national nonprofit that is inspiring our communities to bring dignity and hope to youth in foster care. You know, for just $10 a month, you can support the Comfort Cases mission to eliminate trash bags from the foster care system. For every $10 donated, a Comfort XL duffel bag will be given to a child entering foster care. Please help us be part of the change. Go to comfortcases.org and see how you can help a child entering our foster care system. Welcome back, everybody, to Fostering Change. And I am so excited because I'm here with my friend Kyle, who has written, Where Do I Fit In? I will have to tell you, was thinking during the break, have I had any, and I've had lots of authors on, but have I had any authors who have written a children's book about a child who's come into foster care? And Kyle, you're the first. And so Kyle is actually going to be the first one to do something that I've been thinking about this ever since I knew Kyle was going to be on our show, is he's actually going to read the book to us. Let me tell you the reason why I want him to do this. I know a lot of you are running on the treadmill right now, listening to our podcast, and we thank you for that. I know a lot of you are driving in the car and you're heading to your next appointment as you're listening to Fostering Change, and we thank you for that. And I know a lot of you are trying to figure out a way to expand your horizon when it comes to children coming in the system. So you're going to hear this amazing story. And then what I hope you do afterwards is that you're going to actually visit Tofu, that's TOFU -press.com, and purchase one of these books. But guess what? I'd like you to do two things. I'd like for you to purchase one of these books for your library, and then do me a big favor. Purchase one of these books and send it to comfortcases.org. Send them to comfortcases.org so they can go in our comfort cases. Because I can tell you right now, kids in the system would love to read a book that they know is specially made for them. Kyle, it's up to you now, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. All right. Where do I fit? Where do I fit? Where should I go? Where is my home? I do not know. I've lost my puzzle. I'm scared to be alone. I just want someplace and someone to call my own. I went to a house. It wasn't my home. My corners didn't fit and my edges were too long. I stayed a short while and then I moved on. How many more puzzles will I have to see? There are so many places and only one me. This one seems nice. The family is two. I have my own bed and a room with a view. My edges slide in and my corners fit right. Could this be my puzzle? I think it just might. I now have a place for forever, I'm sure. I have my own family and my peace is secure. The end.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Like I said, I've read this book so many times. And so let me tell you something real quick. You know, as many times as I've read this book, I just read it again with you again, and there's so much of the illustration that I didn't remember from the previous time. So I love the details, and going back to the very ending of the story, I always noticed, the books on the shelves, but what I didn't notice is the piece of puzzle that has the house on there. I
Yep.
love the details that it is absolutely amazing. Kyle, is this going to be your last book?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of lit a little bit of a fire in me. And like I said, I've learned a lot doing this. That I'm not going to say that the next one's going to be easier, but it's not as intimidating as it kind of was before.
So, Kyle, being a dad of two boys that you have adopted through foster care, what would you say to those new parents, the new parent who is considering going the same journey that you and I have gone down?
They should. That's it. If you have an ability to respond to the situation, you should respond. That's where the word responsibility comes from. A lot of times the conversations I've had with people that say, and you've heard this, I'm sure, is, oh, I couldn't do that. I'd get too attached. And my response is, but that's why you should do it, because some of these kids don't have someone who's willing to get attached to them. Perhaps they wouldn't be in care in the first place had their own families been attached to them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So, Kyle, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You could find me on Instagram, Kyle the Vegan, and I know I gave you a bunch of that information, but you could email me, my last name dot my first name at gmail.com. You could also contact me through tofupress.com.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
my
And
contact
I
information
really want people to
is in the
go to
description.
tofu-press.com. I want them to continue to support you. They can purchase the book right there. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. And I'll
Excellent.
get a notification and I will ship the book to them personally. So
Excellent. That is so awesome. Well, listen, Kyle, it has been my pleasure. I am so, so excited. I'm excited because I know so many of our followers and our listeners are going to purchase this book, not only for their library, but for comfort cases as well, because it's a great book to go into a child who's entering foster care. We are so lucky to have this platform. On so many times, people do not realize that the one thing we do not talk about is foster care. And I hope that every single week that we have done that. Right now we are in the campaign of our 100% Give Back campaign for Orphan Myth. I want us to understand that the word orphan, no matter whether we might not use it in our vocabulary, and it has been something that has truly been something that I've had to work on. Orphans do exist within our world, and they exist within our country. And these children, whether we want to consider them children of the foster care system or not, they are still orphaned from our society and from our community, and we must do something. So please, not only do I want you to go to hyphen-press.com, please visit orphanmyth.org and see how you can be a part of the 100% campaign. Because with 100% of us together, we can truly change our child welfare system. Once again, thank you so much for joining Fostering Change. We really would love for you to share our podcast, watch us on YouTube, subscribe, and if you want to be a guest, please reach out. Kyle, I hope you and your family have a safe rest of your week and the rest of your summer, and you're going to be back on our show. So you take care, my friend.
thank you, Rob. I appreciate you having me, man.
Bye-bye. Have a good
Bye.
day, everyone. I would like to thank all of you for listening to the Fostering Change podcast. You can subscribe on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you follow Comfort Cases on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter at Comfort Cases. Check out the Fostering Change blog at comfortcases.org. And I know some of you have a question, and I know some of you would love to be a guest. Please personally reach out to me at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. That's fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. Then do me a big favor. Please help spread the word. Share this podcast. Share it with your friends and your family. Remember, I say this quite often, we're all part of the same community, and that community, it's not our zip code, but our human race. Let's all make a difference.